Hello there everyone and welcome to a new review on the channel. Today we're looking at another one of the Black Friday Penguin Magic releases, and that is the Real Viewer. An interesting product that I have some gripes with and I feel has been rushed a bit too much in its publication. So a bit of a mixed opinion on it, and I think that some of the things that I want to mention are going to be really valuable for you when you're going to decide if or not to make your purchase. So let's roll the intro and get straight into it. Perfect. So you decide to stick around, which means that you're interested in learning more about the Real Viewer. So what is essentially the Real Viewer? Is, as the title suggests, a real viewer, and in it you put your reel that has different places around the world, and the spectator is going to flick through, and then you're going to be able to guess what that place is. Now, I don't have a spectator, and there's literally no way that I can adapt my presentation of this without a spectator. There's literally no way. So I really cannot perform this to you, but I'll give you kind of a mock performance of how this would go. So you'd introduce your Real Viewer. You tell the spectator it has different places around the world that are really popular and places that people want to visit. You give them the viewer. You ask them to flick through and see that there's different places. So they're going to do that. They're going to flick through. And then you tell them to stop and to look that they can't see, like you can't possibly see from the outside what they're looking at. They would agree. They then continue to go until they reach a place that they like. When they reach that place, you tell them to look at it, remember it, and focus on it, and focus on the writing and what the place is. You then proceed to tell them, for example, can you view the name of the place on, like, in front of you? They're gonna say yes. You tell them, for example, does it have an O? They're gonna answer yes or no. You're gonna proceed through a procedure like that, and eventually you're gonna be able to guess what the image is that they're seeing in the Real Viewer. That's pretty much what the routine is, and I think that they show a full performance in the trailer, so you can kind of get an idea of exactly how this works and what you're getting essentially. So now that that's out of the way, where do you buy this, how much does it cost, and what do you get? So this is available on Penguin Magic. It costs $29.99, and what you get is this box. Inside of this box, you get your Real Viewer, and you get your reel. You also get a crib for the effect if you don't want to memorize it, because there's a bit of memory work involved. You do get a crib, and you also get your instructions, which go over the effect, how to perform it, variations, some really cool tidbits of information that you can use to make this effect even stronger than it is, because in certain scenarios, there's some key elements that are gonna let you do the effect twice, repeat it twice, and make it even more impossible, which is definitely great. Okay, so that's essentially kind of a wrap up of this. But now I do want to mention a few things. First of all, you only get one reel. So you can only do this with a reel of around, and most people know that a reel has between 7 to maybe 10 images on it, right? So already people know that the choice is constricted, and that since you only have one, maybe you already know what they are, right? So that's one thing to keep in mind. Second of all, this comes inside with a bill that says made in China. So what's a bit bad about that is that they misspelled some of the words in the Real Viewer. For example, the Sydney Opera House is the Cindy Opera House. And I didn't notice it at first, and then I asked my spectator to do this, and they started laughing. And they're like, where did you get this? Because I don't know a Cindy Opera House. Is this supposed to be Sydney? And then people started laughing, etc. So that's a bit of a letdown when you pay $30 and essentially one of the locations is thoroughly misspelled. So when you perform this, what I would do is I would tell them, oh, I bought this off like a flea market, like a cheap Chinese knockoff of a Real Viewer. So maybe if you get this idea that it's cheap and that you know it's cheap, it's gonna fly by. which is another thing that I think, needs addressing. Third of all, actually, a lot of people I see online think that it's regarding the clicks, that, you're presetting the real viewer to a selection and then you're reading the clicks when they're clicking through them. And that is not how it works. The effect works differently, and I kind of gave you an idea of how differently. So keep in mind that you could literally block your ears. They could go to anyone that they want, and you're still gonna be able to find out what it is. So I did want to get that out of the way regarding a few things about the effect before we get into the review. So now let's talk about difficulty. Is this difficult to perform? Not easy, not hard, not really intermediate. I would put it between beginner and intermediate because there is some memory work. So if you want to perform this as cleanly as Nick Locapo does in the Penguin trailer and the Penguin extra video, because if you didn't know, Penguin sometimes have 2 videos in which they show you the product and kind of give away some hints as to how it works and how you would use it, which Nick Locapo does. Or you can even go in the Penguin live stream that they did, where they kind of talk more about it, about the effect, and you can kind of understand more about it. But nonetheless, so regarding difficulty, you do have a bit of memory work if you want to perform it as clean. However, as I said, they do provide you a crib, so you can do it with the crib. How I did it when I kind of trialed it before someone pointed out that some of the things are misspelled on it, I would always have a small whiteboard with the erasable pen. So I clip the crib on the whiteboard, and when I hold the whiteboard, I just cover the crib, and then I do the effect and I draw what they're seeing. I kind of draw it and make the effect play out a bit bigger. So that's how I do it, since I haven't memorized it. But yeah, difficulty-wise, not that difficult. As long as you remember the workings of the trick, you're pretty much good to go. And you also have the aid of the crib to help you out. Second of all, what is the practicality of this? So first of all, this is not a walk-around effect. This is not an effect you're going to perform on a night out with your friends at a bar or at a restaurant, because you're going to have to carry around this with you, and you're going to have, you're going to have to carry around this with you. And this is not going to fit in your pockets of your pants. This is probably not going to fit in your jacket pocket nicely or be comfortable. So this is definitely something that you're going to take out when you perform or at home. So if you have a paid gig or anything like that, or maybe you do want to perform this to some of your friends and you have a backpack or a case with you, you can put it in there. But most of the time, practicality wise, you're going to have to carry around this chunky viewfinder with you. So I think that limits kind of where you could perform it depending on the type of performer that you are. So apart from that, that's it, because you only have one reel that's provided to you in the viewfinder. So other than that, practicality wise, you're pretty much good to go. I also don't know if you could perform this in like a club or anything where it's a bit dark. I don't even think they would let you enter the club with this, for starters, but let's say they do. I don't know if there's any lighting restrictions, because I don't think they mentioned that in the video, nor I don't think anyone is going to want to perform this maybe in the dark. But yeah, maybe practicality wise, your venue could play a part in it, but I don't really think so. Now that I've already hinted about kind of where to perform this, I want to deep dive more into it. So of course, you're gonna have to carry this around with you. So for most people, casual performances, street performances where they don't plan on carrying around a backpack or a magic case or a magic mallet or whatever, you're probably not gonna bring this out with you. So this is probably gonna be something you only bring with you at your gigs. So you're gonna put this in your case or whatever, and you're gonna bring this at your gigs. But even then, even for your gigs, for example, my case is the TCC, like the smaller one, and this would take a lot of space in my case. Would I want to have this on my case over other effects? Probably not. So yeah, practicality regarding where to perform, you're gonna have to carry this around with you, so you really have to keep that in mind. But apart from that, it would work in restaurants, walk around scenarios, weddings, parties, parlor stage. This could work. But again, I do think you're limited with the one reel, which practicality wise and where to perform wise, I think people are just gonna be a bit suspicious. Which gets me into the positives and negatives. First, let's go through the positives. It's a fun effect. It's an object that people like to use, they have used, and it's something that people are going to connect with, which is something they tell you in the trailer as well, and that's true. And it's also fun. The image is very clear in it, and even as a performer, you have some you can play around with the spectator, and you have also some leeway into maybe doing it twice in a row, which makes the effect even better and even more impossible, which is definitely a benefit. So in that regard, it's kind of a positive. The second positive is it's an enjoyable effect for the spectators as well, not only because of the object, but because they're thinking of a place they would like to travel. You're asking them to imagine different things, the writing, then the actual place. Then you're slowly putting a picture in their head that you kind of already know what they're thinking of, and it's a really kind of cool effect for what you're paying. However, negatives, there's a few of them. First of all, you only get one reel, and most people are, as I said, are going to be aware that there's only 7 to 10 spaces on a reel, so that you probably already have the things memorized. And once you start kind of going through the way the effect is meant to perform, some people are going to be like, okay, but it's kind of obvious the way you're doing this. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is it does feel like a bit of a cheap product. And when you get a slip that was made in China in it, you do feel a bit let down, because even when they have to click through, even Nicole Capo said they have to click hard and go all the way through. If they just do this, it's not going to work. They're going to pretty much always remain at the same image. So it feels like a bit of a clunky-ish product. Third of all, there's literally mistakes on the viewfinder itself. The Cindy Opera House, I think that if you're pushing a product onto market, you do have to proofread it at least a bit. I don't know if maybe I got an odd one out. So I'm interested if you already purchased this and already have it in your hand. Comment down below if you have that same mistake, because I didn't notice until a spectator noticed it, and I felt embarrassed that I was doing an effect to them where literally the things are misspelled on the actual viewfinder. So yeah, I'm really interested in knowing more about that. So, and lastly, also, I don't know, I like the effect, but seeing that, other effects like this hit the market, yes, they're more expensive. I'm looking at Michel Hulot's trick. I forgot what it's called, but he put out a huge symposium on a viewfinder magic trick, and I think it is like $200, which is expensive. But I really do think that if you're serious about doing this, you're probably only going to do it at paid gigs anyway, or you're probably going to do it at a parlor or stage events anyway, which means that you're getting paid, and you're probably getting paid a significant amount of money. So I think that if you want to do such an effect in that scenario, just buy Michel Hulot's trick. I think it's better, it's more fooling. They get to choose a freely selected viewfinder. The process in which you find the image is, in my opinion, better as well. And if you're interested in that, I believe Craig Petty has a review of it on his channel. So definitely go check that out if you're interested in that, because I think that if you're serious about it, you're most likely better off buying that, even though it's a significant amount of money. So that's all I have to say about this. Now, would I recommend this effect? And my answer is, at its current stage, no. I do not recommend this effect. It's not very practical to carry around. It feels cheap. You don't have the choice of different viewfinders. Yes, you could buy some of your own, but they cost a lot of money. For example, on Amazon in Canada, one reel is $20. So if I'm to buy 5 reels to do maybe a choice of 6 with a Classic Force, that's $100. If I would have invested those $100 more over what I paid over this, I buy a better effect and a stronger effect, right? So that's another thing. Then there's mistakes on the reel. So maybe they're going to correct that, or maybe people are claiming that and they're going to send out new ones. And so would I recommend this at its current state? No, I don't think that I would recommend this. You're better off just buying, as I mentioned, put $10 more, buy the previous review, Blizzard by Dean Dill. It's 20 times the effect that this is, and it's just better. And I'm just a bit disappointed because I was excited for this. I watched the tutorial and I was excited. And then when I got it into my hands, even if you look at the product, it has it's badly stitched It's like a bit falling apart. It has bruises on it. It's like banged up. It really does feel like a cheap prop. Now you could maybe get away with that. And I think that they're a bit aware of that with the price of 29 and that they didn't charge more for it. So yeah, I would not recommend this at its current state, if I'm being honest, and I'm all about being honest in my reviews. And sometimes when I'm more brutally honest on effects such as this, I feel bad for the creator, I feel bad for them, etc., because I'm too nice of a guy. You know, I don't like trashing down people and bringing them down and criticizing their products, but I really don't think this is worth your money. I'm giving the real viewer a 4 on 10. So I think, yeah, it's just unexcusable to push a product where literally your viewfinder is misspelled in certain areas, and some of them, for example, like Mount Rushmore, it's barely legible. So yeah, I just think there's too many negatives, and I think it was rushed on the market for the Black Friday release too fast, and the effects suffered for it. So nonetheless, thank you everyone for watching. Feel free to comment, subscribe, like, get into discussions with me, and I'll see everyone in the next review.